moving quickly, another handoff to Rankin. Rankin finds a hole, he's at the 30, makes it to the 20, he's got one man to beat. Rankin walks into the end zone. Into the backfield, Braden Wright looks over top, he's going to try to find a man, he's got Alec Tatum. Tatum bobbles it, but he's in the end zone. What a connection between Braden Wright and Alec Tatum. Handoff to Rankin, Rankin right up the middle, and he's in the end zone for a Bearcat touchdown.
You that the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Weekend Sports Kickoff. Andrew Botwinick, Sam Steinmeier, and Austin McNorton with you here today. Jacob, once again, gone. He's at Kansas Speedway today, actually. And we were joking right before we came on today. It's kind of like a day-to-day picks 2.0 because the three of us were all on the same show yesterday talking similar things as well. We'll start with Bearcat football, but before we get into that, today we're going to be talking some Chiefs recap from yesterday's game. We're going to talk as well, picks to pick in this week's NFL schedule as well. We'll go in later on. We'll talk some college football as per usual. We'll have some MLB playoffs. We have Sam Reeves coming in for that. And we have some guests coming on for some NBA talk, Noah Cooper and Perry Randall III. We're going to start, though, with Bearcat football. Their game last week at Arrowhead Stadium against Pitt State. It was two undefeated teams that came in, Northwest being the lone team that made it out, still undefeated. Guys, that was a good game to be at. All three of us were at the call for that game in Arrowhead.
Yeah, it was a very cool experience, very cool atmosphere. I mean, I thought that, being up at the booth at Arrowhead, that's something we're probably all going to remember forever. And it was a great game to watch. Marcus Andrews really had a great game. He showed out, 3 receptions, 61 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He put on a show at Northwest. Really didn't have to do much in the second half. They really did all their offense in the first half, and their defense really buckled down in the second to seal the W.
Yeah, and it's interesting because really when starting the game out, they really didn't start the game. They started in kind of a less than ideal situation, down 7-0 early. They really couldn't get into a rhythm, and I think a lot of that had to do with just the size of Arrowhead, being in Arrowhead, adjusting to when there's 14,000 people there. It doesn't seem like it in a 70,000 seat stadium, and so you're there. You have to adjust to it. It's kind of similar to like. When have you guys ever, when you're playing basketball and you're used to shooting in like your practice high school gym, and then you go into like a big arena, and you're just airballing it constantly because you have to adjust to the depth and all that kind of things. I think we saw that from Northwest, but then when you look at it, it's like good teams, no matter how they start the game out, they finish the game strong. Northwest, they didn't even have to. They finished that half strong. They finished that quarter strong to go into the locker room with a really, really good finish to that first half. And then Sam's right. In that second half, it's just a really nice job of just coasting and defeating an undefeated football team, and now sitting there tied at first with UCM. And we can't wait for that matchup in the final game of the season.
And you had a perfect analogy with kind of how it is adjusting to the bigger stadiums. Zach Howard, defensive lineman for the Bearcats, said it best in their recap this week at the coach's show on Tuesday for the press conferences. He said it was just kind of the first couple drives where everybody just getting their feet wet. Everybody was getting adjusted to playing in Arrowhead because it wasn't like it was a Northwest game where it was like you have fans surrounding you. There was Lower Bowl was filled, but certainly not nearly as filled as Bearcat Arena over there whenever they play their games on Saturdays as well. Right. It's just kind of getting adjusted. You have to kind of find your confidence, and which is weird for Northwest because they weren't the first team that found their confidence. It was Pitt State first. Lorenzo West found their offense for Pitt State first, and Bearcats just kind of came back, and they were like, okay, we're going to combat this. We're going to be able to come back. We're going to score as well. Braden Wright did Braden Wright things, 13 of 24, 100 yards passing, touchdown, interception, but it was more him on the ground, 17 carries, 183 yards, net of 172, and then a touchdown on the ground as well. He tore it up. Amani Donadell as well getting in there. He had a 59-yard rush, touchdown as well. He was getting involved in the passing game as well for him. It was just kind of everything that we've seen for Northwest kind of coming together, and I wouldn't say it was a complete game, but it looked like it was a complete game.
Right.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Braden Wright really just doing it all on the ground, and, a quarterback who we all thought was mostly just a ground quarterback, Michael Hensey, he started to do it in the pass game. He had 2 touchdown passes of his own, so it was really showing how much variety this Northwest offense has and like what all they can do. Like Hohensie doesn't just run; he can also pass, and Wright can run as well. I mean, we saw that in his freshman year. Haven't really seen it much this year, but this game shows he can still run when he needs to.
And I'm really not a fan of the dual quarterback system. I really never have been. But for Northwest, in what Sam was saying, it works. Because normally in a dual quarterback type system, you bring one guy starts the game and he's a better thrower. He's a better, controller of the offense. You bring the other guy in, the bigger quarterback, Mike Hohensie, to come in and strictly run the football. A lot of wildcat situations and a lot of odd plays where more often than not, you're going to run the football when that certain quarterback comes into the game. But for Northwest, they bring in Hohensie, and it's still just as unpredictable as when Braden Wright's in the game. You don't know. Hohensie's bigger, so running it is more of a challenge in terms of stopping it compared to Braden Wright. But Braden Wright's just as effective of running the ball, and Hohensie's just as effective at throwing the ball clearly. And so just that added, I think, compared to last season, is just another dynamic and another difficulty for defenses to stop. When in most teams and organizations who use a dual quarterback system, it doesn't work because then you become predictable. Oh, this quarterback's going to throw, this quarterback's going to run. Hohensie comes in. All right, I guess we still play it the same way because we don't know what he's going to do.
And you mentioned having a quarterback that's a throwing quarterback, or having a quarterback that's a running quarterback. That's exactly what Pitt State does
right.
with Brandon Malikas as well as Max
And Northwest
Sexton.
was able to predict that.
And Northwest, on the other hand, although they do run a 2-quarterback system, the difference is that for Pitt State, only one of those guys is in on the field at the same time. For Northwest, there were times when Braden Wright would be the original quarterback, and then they would have a 2 running back in the backfield, Mike Hohensie being one of the backs, then Braden Wright would motion out as a wide receiver or something. And at that point, if you're Pitt State, you're like, well, I don't know what to expect here.
When two quarterbacks are in the game, exactly.
And both can throw, both can run.
And
you
punt.
have no idea. Yeah, both can punt too. You have no idea on a 4th and 10 if it's going to be a run, a pass, or a punt.
Exactly.
And with both of those guys in the game, you have to expect the unexpected. So Northwest once again winning in Arrowhead at a score of 38-17. It was Marcus Andrews leading the way with 3 touchdowns. Braden Wright on the ground, 172 yards rushing, touchdown on the ground as well. First half points were plenty for Northwest, 31 points in the first half. It was 31-14 at halftime, and then just after halftime, 10 points total scored. The second half was a little bit lackluster than what we saw in the first half. I think Northwest was just kind of coasting to the finish line.
Pitt State started to run the ball a little bit more effectively, but at that point, it's just a little bit too late in that kind of triple option type run scheme that they had. Northwest shut that down in the first half. Pitt State started to get it going, but the problem was they couldn't punch it into the end zone. And that's a great sign for Northwest. When you know how dominant this team is at stopping the run, you know that even if, they're letting teams drive down the field, you're saying, okay, we're still not letting you run it into the end zone. Like, good luck once you get to that 20-yard line because you're still not going to score against us. And that's what Northwest did against one of the better scoring teams in the nation, let alone the MIAA.
And speaking of teams that run the football a lot, we're going to go ahead and transition now into this week's matchup at Nebraska Kearney. It's an away game for Northwest. Nebraska Kearney coming in 4-2 on their record. Their wins against Missouri Southern, Northeastern rather. I'm going to try, and my computer's not loading for me for some reason. Lincoln as well, just last week, and that one was a 44-0 win for them. Northeastern State was a 45-10 win, and I believe their other win, against Emporia State, 31-21. Losses coming this year was Pitt State, a 37-14, and then week 2 against Central Oklahoma, a 28-23 loss for them. So they've played some good teams and kind of had it seen where they're placed at. They've played some bad teams as well, and I think that's kind of more why they're sitting at 4-2, more of playing the Missouri Southern, Northeastern State, and then Lincoln, who is just now getting into the MIAA with the football program. And it's kind of where I'm seeing this team at right now, but it's not a team to overlook nonetheless. They're a rush-heavy team, and for Northwest, it says statistics-wise that Northwest should be able to shut it down, but this is, once again, a Nebraska Kearney team that can run the ball efficiently.
Yeah, and Northwest going to Nebraska Kearney, they've struggled in the past it's always been kind of close games up there in Kearney, and I've traveled to a few of those games and watched them, and they just have a tough time putting points up on the board, and it's always a grinded out defensive battle, I feel. And that's the type of game Nebraska Kearney wants to make this, because they know they can't keep up with the scoring of Northwest, who has the number 6 scoring offense in the country, putting up 46.7 points per game. So they're just going to try to have to, limit that and try to get as many points as they can.
I 100%. I think this is a game that Kearney wants to absolutely slow down. They don't want to let some of these playmakers get going, because we've seen, and all it took for Northwest against Pitt State was one big run play from Braden Wright, and then the floodgates were open. We saw all kinds of different, trick plays and all kinds of different schemes were getting in the hands of Imani Donatel, and then, once that offense really gets going, the defense is just unbeatable at that point. They just kind of feed off of the success of some of their offensive playmakers. So I think you're exactly right, Sam, and Nebraska Kearney wants to slow this down a little bit. But Northwest defensively, I think Pitt State was a good game to help them try and stop the run. I mean, what we saw from Sam Phillips, who sealing that edge on that defensive line, as well as some of those other guys, they're so disciplined, and I feel like they've been like that for so long. And I'm sure, Sam, you can attest to this being here. This Northwest defense, they may be one of the most disciplined teams in the nation. They never miss an assignment. They're always right there. Occasionally, they'll let a few guys over the top, because really, when you think about that game, Pitt State, the reason they got on the scoreboard is because of 2 big pass plays. That's really the only reason. Other than that, they tried to grind it out, and Northwest was like, we win that battle. And then we're going to be disciplined, and we're not going to let those big plays over the top. We're going to be disciplined, and we're not going to let you get to the edge. We're going to keep you in the middle, keep you in our front 7, and we're going to make open field tackles. And that's what they've been doing all season long, and that's what they've been doing ever since I've gotten here, and I'm sure it's been significantly longer.
And if you're a numbers guy like me, here are some of the numbers to take away when you look into coming into this game if you're Northwest. You're currently on a 7-game winning streak against Nebraska Kearney since they've joined the MIAA. You've won every single game from... Welcome back to the Weekend Sports Kickoff. Andrew Botwinick, Sam Steinmeier, Austin McNorton here with you on KZLX LP Maryville, streaming live on the TuneIn app as well as KNWT Channel 8's Facebook page. Here with you for about another 2.5 hours. We got plenty of time to talk about some stuff, and we're going to transition immediately into the game that happened last night. The Chiefs, the Broncos, a historic rivalry matchup between these two divisional rivals, and it was exactly what we got at the beginning of it. It was right off the bat. Kansas City's defense kind of shown what they've done historically in the past couple of weeks as well. They immediately give up a touchdown, and then the offense kind of goes down. They do their thing. They get some points up on the board as well. The big issue in this one, obviously, we'll get more into it here in a second, but Patrick Mahomes goes down. He has a dislocated kneecap. He'll be out for at least 3 weeks is what they're saying. What I would personally think, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm prefacing that with that, he'll probably sit out until the bye week. He'll have about 3 weeks, take that bye week as the 4th week, and they might try and work him back in for that New England game because that's an important one.
Very much. So what were you thinking when the Broncos just went right down the field? You had the penalties, and they scored pretty easily.
For me, I was just kind of watching it, and I was settling in. I was getting ready to watch, and I had it on playing, but I wasn't like sitting down like focused enough to watch it. And I saw them driving down the field. I didn't see as much of the penalties, but they brought it back up the next drive, and they got in the end zone, and I was like, okay, like we're good. It was a longer drive, but like there wasn't a big play. That was the thing that scared me the most, is it was going to be just big plays right off the bat. Denver was going to get momentum at home, and they were going to put up points on the scoreboard almost at will, because that's essentially what it comes down to. If the home team gets on the board first with a big play, the Chiefs kind of crumble a little bit. We've seen in games when they score quick, the offense tries to come out and immediately get a big play back and score in one play, when in reality you can't kind of pick when you have your big play. It just kind of happens. And the Chiefs were able to slowly move the ball down the field. They get on the board. They score 7. They take the lead back. And the rest of that game, the Chiefs' defense held strong. And I know it's a silver lining because Patrick Mahomes goes down, but the defense played well. They held Denver scoreless for 54 minutes. It was just that very first drive.
Pretty remarkable.
9 sacks for the Chiefs on that. We haven't seen pass rush from this team all season. All of a sudden, you're coming out and you're getting 9 sacks. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you're pleased about that from a Chiefs fan standpoint, but man, if you're Denver, what do you do? Like, are you looking for a quarterback or?
They have a quarterback. He's just on IR right now. They have Drew Lock on IR, so.
But
once, I think week 8 is the week that once you're on IR, you can come back. So maybe once that week rolls around, maybe try Drew Lock. This week, okay. So
will they? Because
maybe after this week,
Joe Flacco, he got beat by Matt Moore last night, and that's not good. I mean, that's not good. And the Chiefs' defense, which is not good,
he
granted,
I will preface by saying he did not get beat by Matt Moore. He got beat by Frank Clark, who had 2 sacks, Anthony Hitchens, who had 2 sacks, Alex Okafor, who had 2 sacks, Ogba had 1, Armani Watts, Reggie Ragland, 9 sacks by this Chiefs defense. They were blitzing almost every single play. Denver couldn't do any. I know we talked a lot yesterday on Day-to-Day Picks about how the Chiefs were going to stop Von Miller. Apparently, we should have been asking, how is Denver going to stop anybody from the pass rush from the Chiefs? Because they couldn't stop anything.
Yeah, and also, he got beat by Matt Moore with the best offense in the NFL. Still has Tyreek Hill, DeMarcus Robinson, LaShawn McCoy, all the running backs. Like, this is the best case scenario for Matt Moore. Like, if you had to put a backup quarterback into a situation like this is the situation to put him in. I mean, you still have all these weapons, so it's not like it was a worst case scenario for the Chiefs. They still have weapons. They can still put up points.
And the good news, too, if you're the Chiefs and you look at how Andy Reid has been able to have quarterback injuries and how the backups have played, Donovan McNabb went down in 2002. A.J. Feely and company led the team to a 5-1 record with a guy who'd never never started a game. 5-1 record when Donovan McNabb came back 6 weeks later. Happened again in 2004. McNabb goes down. The Eagles have to rely on a new quarterback. Andy Reid coaches them to another 5-1 record without Donovan McNabb. So I'm not saying that they play amazing whenever the starting quarterback isn't playing. It's just Andy Reid is going to make sure that a guy like Matt Moore, who hasn't really had a lot of playing time as of recent, he's going to be set. He's going to go. This is his 12th year in the league. He knows what he needs to be able to do. And as Sam mentioned, you have all those weapons. You're going to be fine. You're going to know, as he's shown in that game, loft it up to Tyreek Hill if necessary. Tyreek Hill's the fastest guy in the NFL. No one's going to be able to cover him one-on-one. And clearly, as that happened in that game.
Were you just fearing the worst once you saw Mahomes? Okay, here's the real thing with that injury. Do you like the play call of Mahomes quarterback sneaking on 4th and inches?
I've seen a lot of people talk about the play calling. He has the bum ankle already. Why would you call a QB sneak on 4th and 1? The difference is that Andy Reid makes the play call. Patrick can adjust it at the line if he feels necessary. So I'm not saying it's his fault that he injured himself, but there was a time where it goes from Bieniemy to Reid and then all the way to Patrick. Patrick calls the play at the line. They run the play to execution. You can't pin it on one person. You can't say, oh, well, Andy Reid shouldn't have ran a QB sneak on 4th and 1.
But ultimately, it's his decision.
And they run, like, every team really runs QB sneaks on 4th and inches. It's just because Patrick Mahomes has a bum ankle, like, you never would have known that he would have dislocated his kneecap on a QB sneak.
It's true. And I think that's a good point because if he would have injured his ankle, like if it would have been his ankle, then it probably would have been even more like, dumb, why are you QB sneaking it? But since it was a freak this could have happened when he was 100% healthy, like type injury. It had nothing to do with the fact that he was hurt already. But I think I've heard a lot of Chiefs fans. That's why I wanted to get your point because I've heard so many Chiefs fans be saying, we should never run Patrick Mahomes. He's, so protected and we should never run him. But in my opinion anyway, in that situation, that's the right play call. I mean, I know you have Anthony Sherman and that would have been fine too, but 4th and inches, Tom Brady QB sneaks it in that situation, right? I mean, it's not just, we have Patrick Mahomes, so he should never run the football. That's not the case. I mean, that in that situation, Andy Reid has, all right, situation. What's the play call on 4th and inches inside the 20-yard line? QB sneak. That's the right play call, no matter the case.
Yeah, exactly. And I know whenever Patrick went down, I put in the group me as kind of a joke. He immediately, like, I saw him still laying on the turf, and I was like, okay, well, he's on his lineman. He's going to get up. He's going to get up. He reached out, grabbed a hand, and then immediately pulled his hand back, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? My heart kind of dropped a little bit, and it was the only time that I've ever been more scared was when I got my first Fred Lamer test back. The only time I've ever had the immediate look of what is about to happen here. I flipped the test over, didn't get a good grade on it as per usual in a Fred Lamer class, your very first one.
Well, of course.
You're not going to do well on it.
It's the worst.
And immediately when I saw Patrick Mahomes laying down on the turf, I was like, oh, I hope it's not the ankle. Saw him grab at the knee, and immediately my thought goes to where Deshaun Watson's of the league, to Tom Brady whenever he had his. Everybody immediately thinks ACL, MCL, something like that. Luckily, it was not the case for Chiefs fans. A dislocated kneecap should sideline him 3 to 4 weeks, as I mentioned earlier, probably in that gap range. They say that the MRI was about as well as it could have went. That it was as good as it could have went.
Yeah,
best case scenario. And also, I saw last night on Thursday Night Football, they said that there's a lot different from when Carson Wentz got injured. When Carson Wentz got injured, everyone was kind of down. There wasn't really much, happiness in the locker room. And whenever Patrick went back into the locker room, he was like, he told Andy Reid, I'm going to be okay, coach. And everyone was in like a good mood.
Welcome back to Weekend Sports Kickoff. Andrew Botwinick, Noah Cooper, Sam Steinmeier, and Perry Randall III here. We got just about 5 more minutes here before we go and end the show. We're going to bring up our Off the Rocker, as we mentioned, obviously. Sam, go ahead and get us started. What do you have for us?
All right, I'm going to college football. I think that LSU, they're playing Alabama soon, so I think they're going to beat Alabama, win the SEC championship game, and then the 4 playoff teams will be LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma. Bama will miss the college football playoff.
So not only you're saying LSU is going...
There's a lot to unpack in that. So.
Yeah, so not only you're saying LSU is going to beat Alabama in about a week or two, you're saying that Alabama loses the SEC championship.
LSU wins the SEC championship.
Or not LSU, sorry, Alabama. You're saying Alabama loses that, and then they also not make the top 4 in the college football playoffs?
Yeah, they miss the SEC championship game, which LSU wins, and then they miss out on the college football playoff.
It's tough to pick against Tua Tagovailoa, but it's even tougher to pick against Nick Saban. Joe Burrows is a great player, but I don't think he'll have enough to beat Alabama. So I'm going to have to say that you're off your rocker for this one. Even if they do lose to LSU, I think that they'll make it into the college football playoffs regardless. They'll probably slide a different team out. But if you would have just said that they'll beat Alabama, I would say that's fair, but they're not beating them twice per se.
Well, they wouldn't beat them twice.
Well, they would beat them in the college football playoffs is what I'm saying. Because Alabama would be on the outside looking in.
Oh, you just mean
so they wouldn't necessarily head-to-head beat them, but
beat them out.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. All right.
So I think you're off your rocker for that one. We didn't get any from Austin, Nolan, or Jacob for this week. So Perry, if you have one, you can go ahead and. Did you end up coming up with one?
Of course. Well, first and foremost, Kansas City Chiefs fan, so Chiefs to the bowl. We winning it too. I'll be there at the parade. But my hot take would be: there's going to be a Kevin Durant sighting this season. That would be my hot take. I think he loves the game too much. I think he's going to be cheering on his team, and he's just going to be wanting to get out there. I think we saw it in the finals last year. Him and the Warriors staff, they were working together, doing everything they can to get back out there. So I think that the recovery process is going to go pretty smooth, and we'll see a Kevin Durant sighting post-All-Star break.
I don't know. Achilles injuries are really tough because you saw what happened with Kobe and you're never really the same.
Whoa, buddy.
Okay, Kobe's a little older in his career, but still.
Don't disrespect my dad, all right?
I'm just saying you're never really the same after that, and I think the Nets are really going to tender this injury. Like they want prime Kevin Durant. They don't want Achilles injury Kevin Durant who can't do the same stuff that prime Kevin Durant
You want me to call him right now?
I honestly agree. I agree with Perry. I think Kevin Durant is such a competitor that even if they're saying, you got about 2 weeks before you can come out, you say, okay, we'll make it 1. I'll make sure.
I have a
can
lot
come
of
out.
stuff to say about Kevin Durant being competitive, but
Especially if the Brooklyn Nets are right in the playoff mix, he's going to want to have something to do with that. So expect for.
I'm not saying Kevin Durant won't want to play because I think he definitely will. Because when you're an athlete, you always want to be out there. But I just don't think the Nets doctors will let him.
That's about all the time we have for on Weekend Sports Kickoff. We'll be back next Friday from 2 to 5. I'm sure Jacob will be back next week. He's been off for 2 weeks. Now he'll be coming back. So that'll do it for us here on X106, the TuneIn app, as well as KNWT Channel 8 Facebook page. We'll see you next week.